And we're live. What's up, YouTube? And a couple quick things before we get into these Salvatore Pais patents and really start digging through those. I got a letter from AdSense saying that they're not going to monetize my stuff because there was violations were detected on the AdSense policy, and so basically I can't make any money from doing any of the videos or any of the stuff that I do online anymore. I can't make any amount of cash, like I don't know, through Patreon. I've tried this Patreon thing, but I like don't know what I should charge the people who are on Patreon for or not, and I haven't been really keeping up with it because I don't really know enough about it. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way that people can Venmo me, or people have been doing. I've been getting some money here on the monetized live chats with the super chats, and that's been helpful too. But I don't know. I got to figure out a better way to. There's no way for me to like monetize this, and I work friggin' insane hours at my regular job. Or all the people that think I'm a shill and I fucking get paid to do this by the government, you're out of your freaking minds. And that's the lamest excuse I've found for why I've debunked so much of the bullshit out there, man. And yeah, I've gotten my hands dirty, and I've promoted stuff before where it's I do 360s, and I have a skeptical view of a lot of this stuff because I've been fooled before, like that. Where's that patent? So the last set of patents that really came out and shook people and got a lot of views and shook up things were the triangular spacecraft for this TR3B patent by John St. Clair, which I think was total disinformation because it was filed in 2004, but like kind of just sat there and didn't get any attention until 2 days after Ed Fouché died. And then 2 days after Ed Fouché died, this thing went viral on like Secure Team 10 and Third Phase of the Moon, and a bunch of these real huge, big, popular channels on there did a whole expose on this. And now it's like, if you search for TR3B, all you find is this thing which says it was Biefeld-Brown effect, which isn't the propulsion system that Ed Fouché described at all, which I'm still curious about. I think that there might be something to that, but there's a lot of this new stuff that's come out, and I've been digging into a lot of this stuff for the past year, these Salvatore Pais patents, and lots of people talking about this now that this was an article published in August of 2019, just a few months ago. There's been a couple, Brett Tingley, actually, he's talking to me now. I've been talking back and forth with him on Twitter. Just today he started following me, and we've been going back and forth, which is awesome. I got tons of stuff I want to share and talk about with regards to this, but I'm digging and finding more and more stuff all the time. Like for example, I was really skeptical of this one patent on the room temperature superconductor device. Not this one, but this one. So the piezoelectrically induced superconductors and stuff. And this talks about a wire that they have with this coating on it, and the wire could essentially be a analogy for an entire craft built of the same kind of construction. It's basically like telling you how to make a skin coating for a craft. Basically, the same kind of. It's like this patent, where this patent leaves off, it doesn't quite describe the physics of the how-to, and there's a couple things that are kind of obscured, and this has already been picked apart on a lot of the physics forums and places where it's been shown. The physics community has really poked a lot of holes in this stuff, but there's something to this, and I'm not sure what that we've been talking all about. What are the U.S. Navy's motivations and stuff, and what is this guy's history? People have already been digging through this. The sharks are out in the tank big time on this already, so I'm probably not telling a lot of my viewers anything new who've been really researching this. But so that you should know that this guy worked for a different department for a number of years. I think it was like 3 years. He worked for a separate department, and then he just transferred to this SSP department, which is, it's crazy. They call it the SSP. It's like the secret space program. It's like I don't know. It's almost like this is being done intentionally and on purpose. But although it has to be, because why else would this be so popular and be put out there like this, you know, like, and it's getting tons of attention now. So it has to be like, but my question is this based on real technology and real stuff? And this stuff has existed since about 2005. And I'm going to interrupt right here I want to read some of the stuff that people are posting, and I want to play a video for you guys real quick. Now this was, let me find the video. This was private, and it's been made public because we've got permissions from the people in it. Well, it's been shortened. This is part of a much longer documentary that was filmed in 2005 by a guy named Jeffrey Deemer, and I've seen more of it, like the longer version, and it's got interviews with Hal Puthoff and Bernard Haisch, all these physicists that I've been really digging into with regards to this vacuum, zero-point energy, and inertia stuff. The stuff on how inertia as a inertial reaction force in the vacuum, and how basically we can build warp drives with Casimir effect and radiation and warping light and using light, that everything's based on light, and that gravity can be this new reinterpretation of gravity. Anyways, you guys have to watch this. This is really cool, and I'm going to make sure the audio is going to play on this one for me right now.
So we have to move forward on the absolute belief that the space-time manifold can be affected by EM radiation in an efficient manner. That leads to the idea of the zero-point field and the polarizable vacuum model.
And it's a very simple concept. In the case of the usual general relativity approach, we talk about light from a star coming by, and when it goes by the sun, it gets bent. And we think of that in terms of the space-time warp and the dimple, and it kind of rolls around. But another way of looking at it is that, because we know how light gets bent ordinarily in the laboratory, it's put it through a lens. And so another view, and there's a long history of this approach as well, is that the sun and the planets and so on in effect change the refractive index of the vacuum. And in fact, the refractive index is higher toward the sun than it is further away, and therefore, again, you would predict that as a light ray comes by the sun, because it's entering a region where the refractive index is higher toward the sun, that would account for its bending.
So in that sense, just following Einstein's path, we can easily accommodate the zero-point field and explain something that, in a sense, general relativity does not. It doesn't explain where the weight of an object comes from. It explains why you would orbit around an object following a geodesic, but if you're held fixed in a gravitational field, where does that weight come from? General relativity doesn't really tell you that, but general relativity combined with the zero-point field does. So that's I think, a point in favor of the zero-point field interpretation of mass and inertia and gravitational weight.
So in that sense, the polarizable vacuum is just an alternate interpretation of the same measurements that are interpreted as space-time curvature under general relativity.
Now, a deeper question is, why is space-time curved at all? Why does matter produce that effect? And it's possible to conceive of the idea that matter has an effect on the dielectric properties of the vacuum itself.
So on top of what would be termed the electromagnetic zero-point field, we superimpose upon that the energy density of the Earth as a field, so we've got like the zero-point field plus the field of the Earth that are superimposed upon one another to give us a gravitational field, to give us a gradient in the energy density with respect to altitude. And it's that gradient in the energy density that we see as 1g of acceleration.
So the assumption that you first make up that you start off with is that electricity, gravity, and magnetism is unified. Now that's consistent with the zero-point field model. It's consistent with the polarizable vacuum model, and it becomes the heart of the electro-gravi-magnetic model. So between these things, between what we understand of zero-point field theory, which is really quite broad and not very well defined, to the polarizable vacuum model, which is a bit more stringently defined, it's got structure to it, to the electro-gravi-magnetic model, in fact it's not a model, it's a method that gives it total structure, absolute structure. Now based on that absolute structure, we now have something that we can work with.
What EGM is intended to do, it's intended to give engineers a tool by which they can understand and modify gravity.
If mass is the result of electromagnetic discourse between particles, then there's every reason to suppose that by interfering with that discourse, you can modify the mass.
We use electromagnetic fields that we apply into interference patterns that generate accelerated reference frames. When we have an acceleration, that acceleration is equivalent to gravity, just because of the equivalence principle in the same sense. So what we engineer with EGM is, by similarity, equivalent to a gravitational field.
Everything in nature has a point, has a frequency that if you rattle it, it'll break. And there's no absolute reason with that experimental proof why the space-time manifold shouldn't be like that too, perhaps. If the space-time manifold does have a naturally weak point, a point of natural weakness, natural resonance, that you can rattle, I don't know what you'll find.
It could lead to things like artificial gravity, electric motors that can defy gravity. It could lead to modification of the speed of light, warp drive, things like that, electromagnetic propulsion. And so in that regard, EGM is a tool that can be used to help facilitate these things and make them happen.
All right, that was 2005 that was filmed, and that was put together with some clips from Hal Puthoff. And yeah, some questions about Hal Puthoff and what he's doing with TTSA. I don't know. I don't really trust all the CIA agents on that and the Pentagon people involved with that whole TTSA thing. What I will say is that I was pointed to this, and I haven't been on earthtech.org in a while, but I was doing some research into SPAWAR and cold fusion, because one of the patents that was patented by this Salvatore Pais guy in this recent release of these patents was a patent for a fusion reactor. And now there's a couple theories that I have for this. Like, this guy bridged obviously like 3 different branches of physics, and there's no way that he patented all these things himself. And did all this research, even though he's trying to make that claim that he's legit and did all this, that he's some kind of genius. And he even has this thing called the Pais effect, and you know, it's kind of like over the top that, you know, that this guy, it seems to me like what really happens within the U.S. Navy is there's a lot of intelligence and espionage that goes on, and they steal stuff from academic researchers and people out there, and then they have a guy like this file all the patents for it so that they can basically steal intellectual property rights over those ideas that they basically steal through espionage from the community. So it could be part of what these patents are. It could be part of that, or it could also be part of, you know, just an outright disinformation campaign. So it's interesting that that they're talking about this fusion reactor, and it might have something to it. It might be there might be something to these ideas. I'd like to really talk to an expert in a little bit more detail about that fusion patent. But that got me researching the SPAWAR stuff, because the U.S. Navy's been researching cold fusion for like 23 years. It started after Pons and Fleischmann, and they really never stopped. But they have some really great documentation of the SPAWAR research on Earth Tech, which is Hal Puthoff's site here. And although I don't see too much going on with their research into, there hasn't been much. I mean, there's so much stuff out there that they're really falling behind in their keeping up with all this stuff. But Hal in that documentary that he was in led me to a lot of these other colleagues that he's written papers with, like Alfonso Rueda and Bernard Haisch, who are in that larger documentary. I don't know if they were. Bernard Haisch was in that other one, and I don't know the. I think the Aussies guy, his name's Ritter. And I don't know everyone in the documentary just yet, though I had their names, but they were edited out of that copy that I have, so I'll have to get that. I'm sure if you go to that link that's in the description and go to that video and ask, that's Todd Desiato's channel that it's posted on. You could ask Todd. I'm sure they're his colleagues, and he's done a lot of research with them, so I'm sure he'll know. But it's really essentially, I think, that these are core concepts in what the U.S. Navy is working on and developing. Lockheed Martin, Haisch used to work for Lockheed Martin. He was one of their main guys for the theoretics department and their division for that. And if you want to talk about Ben Rich and how he said, we have the means to take ET home, then this would be it if it's legit and if it works. Although why they're bringing it out to the public now is a bit of a question. One of the things that Pais he cites is actually a Chinese experiment. I thought that was interesting. Where is it? Right here. And it was a paper from 2007 on piezoelectric materials for high frequency medical imaging applications, and this is again related to that terahertz frequency stuff and how to medical imaging technology, the ability to peer inside of things and see through walls and all that kind of stuff. It's related to a lot of it, and not just peering through walls. I think it maybe teleporting through them as well, if it's possible. I would love to see it. But it's a lot of the stories that you're getting out of there, but really we're digging into the key physics and trying to look for the academic documentation of this. And I did find some interesting documentation that backs up the claims of piezoelectricity being that you can piezoelectrically generate room temperature superconductivity. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of the papers that I'm finding and the Pais patent, I think cites strontium titanate, or lead titanate, and then this one this one cites lead titanate, that they've done they've built a room temperature superconductor in lead titanate, which I thought was interesting because is it a metamaterial? A lot of these titanates seem to be metamaterials. I know that the barium titanate is a metamaterial that we've talked about quite a bit with regards to the stealth technology, and the coatings that were on the coatings on the stealth fighter was made of barium titanate. And I think a lot of these other types of titanate technologies that they've experimented with, which I thought was really interesting, that we see that here again in these room temperature superconductors and their ability to create that. Of course, they want to really bury this stuff and get everyone talking about that tic-tac encounter, which I still think was a drone swarm and some advanced electronic countermeasure technology, but that's besides the point. Like, they have invisibility technology, and I keep arguing this with UFO Jesus and some of these other people on Twitter about the meaning of UFOs and disclosure. It's like, if you see these UFOs, the whole idea of warp drive technology that they can get here interstellarly, they obviously have invisibility technology and cloaking, which means that if you can see them and their lights in the sky, then that means they want you to see them. There are probably so many more aliens out there that are invisible that you'll never see unless you have quantum radar. Another thing that I talked about how you can actually detect UFOs or things that are invisible. So even if they built these things and had invisible craft or warp drive craft, we could still detect them using some of these radar systems, which is another thing. I guess this is kind of sensitive and related to a lot of defense stuff, which is, yeah, Fouché, dude. That's what kind of was my crash course, because I knew Ed Fouché personally, and you know, I still don't know what to believe with regards to the things that he said about the TR-3B. I haven't seen any evidence for that being a real craft. I've seen a lot of this stuff, and it really, I haven't seen the hard evidence for that being a real craft. I couldn't find the patents. I couldn't find a manufacturer, and I haven't found really enough academic stuff in the academic literature about, this rotating mercury plasmas or anything related to rotating plasma effects, and this idea of torsion physics being the responsible for the torsion of the fields create this warp drive effect. It might be another way to do it. Again, I don't know, maybe that's the old school way, but it's kind of difficult because we're looking at I had another question that someone posed to me. Where is it? Yeah, Walter Bosley actually reached out and was talking about some of the stuff on Charles Delachaux. Very interesting fellow. I'm gonna bring him up real quick and throw him into the picture. But the whole idea is that somebody figured this out a long time ago. That basically it was this flying club that was from the 1800s that these people were involved in, and they had all these stories about it almost seems like a group of LARPs that these people got together and were just LARPing together, and they made up all these fantastic stories about these flying machines and these airships, which were steampunk of that era, and that he published these things later on, these musings and or these writings from it, and it became it became taken almost seriously. But the whole idea is that, scientifically speaking, from an invention standpoint, looking at just the power of invention itself, is that if somebody did figure this out, could they have kept it secret and really not, made money off it and capitalized off it? And I don't think they could, and I don't think it was that easy. We've done a lot of experiments in the Biefeld-Brown and going back over all this history of years of anti-gravity research that the government's done. I have this whole documented history list of all the research. We have all these people that have been researching anti-gravity, and we came together and we're putting this master list together on all the real anti-gravity studies, both like from the past and modern. And it's really looking more and more like I don't think it was something that someone's figured out already. I don't believe these stories of a secret space program where we have bases on the moon and Mars and that they kept it all secret. I think if we had all that, the elites wouldn't be able to help themselves, and they would have nuked the planet or killed us all of some super virus by now and try to retake over the world. Or, maybe that's their plan, is what they're trying to do. But I don't go that far into believing that. I haven't seen the science for it anyway that really we'd be able to. The thing is, if they discovered it that long ago and it was that easy for this puzzle of anti-gravity, then someone would have it and someone would have figured it out a long time ago, and it just doesn't. We'd also be able to rediscover it. That's the key thing, is that we would be able to rediscover this quite easily in the laboratory. If it was discovered back in the 40s or 50s, as these people claim that the Nazis had Hannibal flying saucers and all these fantastic theories that people talk about, we would certainly have, we'd be able to rediscover this. It wouldn't be that hard. So the idea of a breakaway civilization, that somebody else would figure it out again. And what we're learning about the real physics of how this warp drive stuff works, as I showed in that recent thing on vacuum polarization, it's changing the speed of light, changing the vacuum locally. It's not that easy. It's a very complicated physics puzzle. It's not. I don't think that someone figured this out. I think it's a much harder, almost a much harder problem, but not quite out of reach problem. then we're very close to cracking it. And I believe that, you know, people within the government and military, with the budget that they have and the trillions of dollars that they've spent, they're very close, or they've done it, or they're very close. I'm pretty sure, because that recent thing about the deficit, the recent, you seen this Pentagon budget? There was something recent about the Pentagon spending 35 trillion. So 35 trillion unaccounted spending is what they're at now. And this black hole, this bottomless money pit, and this black hole that's happening under Trump right now, and the Space Force and everything that's going on right now. I really think, what I believe is they've figured this out. They've demonstrated it to a small group of people and investors, and they said, like, we got to develop this first before China, you know. And China's really, as we see, they're citing them and their Navy patents and everything, so they know China's not that far off. They've probably discovered this too, and they're at the same point as us. They need to develop the material science infrastructure in the underground in order to basically build up the economy, where we can have the infrastructure to actually build these things. Kind of like what was done with the in the Manhattan Project, where they had to build up the uranium mining and refining infrastructure in order to keep up with the demand for that black world, you know, stuff. So really, I don't believe in breakaway civilization. Yes, there's a lot of rich people that have tons of wealth, but this is what we see, and this is what I think is really going on here, is that they've demonstrated this, they've figured it out, and they're dumping tons of money into it because they know the payoff's going to be worth it once it comes through, you know, that this money's going to not even matter once we can build a craft and have this stuff, you know what I mean? And that's really what I feel is going on right now. Yeah, follow the monkey, dude. Frank Carlucci, the Carlyle Group, and EG&G, and URS. Yes, thank you. Guy under a Google account. This is what's going on, man. And anyways, I don't believe any of that secret space program bullshit. This technology is based on a lot of research that's been done, and 2020 is great. It's going to be a better year for this all to take place, because it's really, we're learning to see the light, and we're seeing the light now at the end of the tunnel. It's literally illumination in such a pure and epic sense of the word. 30 years of squeezed light generation. This is an article I have had up on my the top of my Twitter site for quite a while now, and it hasn't gotten nearly the attention that it's deserved. But this was a key breakthrough that happened in 1984 or 85. You know, right around there is when they first did it, where they were able to create these squeezed quantum states, and this is a key part of this technology. I believe that it has to do with light and paramagnetic optics, that you're able to create, because we go back to this whole issue with Roswell, and I was on Cal Korff did a thing on Roswell recently on Steve Cambian's channel that I was watching right here, and I was on there commenting in the live stream, because Cal Korff, you know, he's a good skeptic, and he debunked the Billy Meyer stuff and a bunch of other stuff, but he tries to debunk Roswell, but he really didn't answer the questions. You know, like the things that he brought up, I had some good, you know, counterpoints too. I mean, I felt anyway. Basically, the whole idea behind Roswell is that there was a switch. All right, that's the whole basic premise of the incident, is that there was basically a switch of material, that this material that they recovered is different than what the witnesses described. And he says, well, the witnesses didn't ever describe that until years later, and then they came out with it. Well, that would make sense if they were fucking threatened and told to shut up and not talk about it, right? Wouldn't it? I mean, it would also, like, you got to think of these things both ways. The thing about the Roswell debris that's always, the thing about Roswell that's always been my core point of contention in the whole case. I don't want to discuss anything else. Just talk about those materials in the witness reports and the things that the materials that they originally reported seeing. It was not mylar from a weather balloon. It was this memory foil. It was graphene, like a graphene type material. All right, back in the 40s. we now know that what some things about graphene that are quite interesting is that graphene has is a skin that can form these Dirac cones and it's a two-dimensional material which can, it's like flat space. If you built your craft, if you built a balloon out of this stuff, it's basically like you could almost use it as a warp drive, I believe, because it's two-dimensional. It reduces space-time to this most pure form of physics, like kind of like what Stephen Wolfram did with that whole a new kind of science, where he basically shows that you can do incredible things with just 1D linear arrays and create all kinds of stuff. And that there's that whole idea of flatland, that basically you can reduce things to 2 dimensions, and if you do it mathematically, everything basically can go into the matrix, a 2-dimensional friggin' matrix. This is kind of what like Ken Griggs was talking about with his theory of Phoenix theory and everything, and it's kind of like that whole thing at the end of Men in Black. Not to go too far off the fucking deep end here, but at the end of Men in Black, how they have that whole thing about, it's just at the very ending of Men in Black, the first one. Go watch Men in Black at the very end. I have it somewhere, but I'm not going to look it up right now. It's right at the end. It's basically like where it shows that we're just in like a portal, and we come out of a locker inside this alien fucking world. There's just we're just code running on the machine. You know what I mean? It's interesting stuff, but back to like reality here. If I'm going too far off the deep end, is that this Roswell thing has always. Was there a switch? Was it the original material? Or did they cover it up with that Project Mogul stuff? Because that's the whole contention, is that Project Mogul and the weather balloon story was used as the cover story for the switch. That it was really, some kind of alien recovery or an alien crash. And the whole thing I've been looking for, and I really, I don't see the evidence for, is a real breakthrough. If this stuff had to have been, if Roswell was really an alien crash, and it was really fucking aliens, right? And the government whisked it away and then created the, National Security Act a couple months later and all this stuff. As we all know the story, if anyone's this is one of the pillars of ufology, is this whole Roswell case. All right, I would be lying if I said that if I wouldn't be involved in any of this if it weren't for Roswell and Bob Lazar. It's the only reason I'm here talking to you right now, because of Bob Lazar and Roswell. So I'd be lying to you say that this hasn't been important and been I've totally debunked, I feel anyways, that Bob Lazar has been, one of those pillars has at least been taken down. And, a lot of these people are really trying to want to claim that they've debunked Roswell, and Cal Korff's one of them. He said it was absolutely Project Mogul, and I'm convinced. And when I figured it out that Roswell was definitely Project Mogul, I was like, how can you be that sure? I'm not even that sure, even of anything I believe. I'm always what if. I'm always with there's a possibility. I'm always try to take things as not a logical definitive. It's like, well, maybe that could be true. It could be true and it could not be. But right now you need more data. But the thing I've been looking for scientifically is I followed Corso's stuff. Where's the technology jump? When did we figure it out? When did we make that leap to be like, and did we even know what we were looking at? We're talking about if it was real, UFO debris from an alien spacecraft, then this stuff was manufactured probably, and if it's that advanced, then it was manufactured atom by atom with a 3D atomic printer, like 4D printer even. Some people call it a 4D printer or whatever. But it's basically like built on the atomic scale, and it's engineered to perfection on all these levels. So these materials that we're learning about now, of all the stuff, this has to be kind of what was recovered at Roswell. Would be much more similar to graphene, those type of materials like graphene, metamaterials, quasi-crystals, nonlinear optical materials, and what are called NLOs. I post that here. Nonlinear optical materials. These would be the kinds of things that we would have recovered at Roswell if it was a legit site. And it's very possible that, you know, these things were, they had to have been just like stored away and only shown to a very, very few people. I don't believe the whole story that they were shown to Vannevar Bush of MIT, and that Vannevar Bush got like direct access to this program and began like the whole process of like studying and trying to reverse engineer them and seed our technology based on theirs. I don't see the evidence for that. I haven't seen the kind of stuff that we're learning about now. It's only really come out since the last 30 years, and it can all be traced back to really this around this time with this group of people, and the stuff that's coming out now with where's the University of Rochester? Right here. This is where that discovery of the squeezed quantum states and the squeezed light was first discovered back in 1984-85 at the University of Rochester. And it's the same place that's now doing all this research on negative mass particles, polariton lasers, and polariton condensates. These polariton condensates, I've seen a lot of the stuff on this, which I've been tweeting about how I think a lot of the stuff in these patents, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of it could be changed to, you know, we could change virtual phonons to polariton condensates, because I know that we're able to do a lot of the stuff with other types of physics, which are very similar to the types of effects that are being created and are used to basically. None of these things really talk about how it's done. How do you warp the speed of light? How do you change the speed of light locally? And how do you create this warp bubble? Like, what are the physical ways to build this and do it? And that's kind of what I've been trying to piece together and put this information together. And I really hope I really think I've come pretty far, but I hope I haven't, you know, given away any of our deepest secrets to the enemy, and that no one from North Korea is watching this right now. But very interesting stuff, and I'm glad we get all these topics of conversation going on, because it's a real big question of mine. Was Roswell legit, man? Was there a UFO, was there a material switch and a cover story? Because that's like the key part of Roswell, and the key is if it was, then what was the original material? Why was it so important, and is it related to anything that we can learn from or we're seeing coming out now today? Because that's kind of like what one theory is that, you know, all this stuff that we're seeing right now is just a way for them to basically soft leak Roswell technology or disclosure out there. But this is nothing like what I would imagine, you know. It's like, this is like, I really think this is disinformation, because it's too much of it was put out right away. It was put on the physics forums and then debunked, and, you know, and now it's come back with the ufology twists and everything, and I really feel it's like something they're going to put out there and then debunk. But again, it could be related, very closely related. Like I said, there's certain things in here that are changed to hide the real technology and hide the real physics, so that they can debunk it and they can draw attention to those things and be like, well, this won't work because, well, what it says about this and virtual phonons and all this stuff, you know. Great, but it's changed on purpose because it really does work, and we just changed those things for intellectual property trade secrets to hide that stuff. He has more patents than 3. There's no fucking way this one dude filed all of these patents and did all this research himself, dude. This is what's called espionage. It's when the U.S. Navy intelligence officers, they go out and they steal other people's intellectual property, and they file it and they patent it all, and they did it under this guy. Okay, that's what happened here. Even if it's the best case scenario. This guy's not like freaking, you know, super god, you know, for the U.S. Navy. I hate to tell you. No one did all this research themselves. No one. Nobody. I don't care who the fuck you are, dude. If you want me to believe that, like, if you believe that, I have some land and friggin' to sell you up north. But, have you seen the fusion power generator? Okay, the fusion power generator. I haven't gotten into that patent yet. I want to dig into that a little bit more, but I want to talk to, I have a fusion buddy that I wanted to talk to that a little bit more about that and get some better insights, because I don't, where's that? So let me find the Pais fusion patent. I'll look at it anyway. Again, when I started the fusion stuff, I'm like, well, isn't the U.S. Navy been researching cold fusion? And I pointed out a bunch of that stuff, and someone mentioned that, yeah, they stopped researching it in 2011 because in 2011 they came up with, like, basically they said the industry needs to step in and take over, that, you know, private research has gone far enough with the research, and industry needs to take over and figure out what to do with it and how to do anything with it, if they can do anything with it. But again, it's one of those things where the material science, just like building these skin coatings and building one of these warp drives and stuff, is that we don't yet have the material science or that 3D printing, atomic 3D printing technology, or to kind of do all this stuff. We do have some of it though, as is in this patent. So, okay, another cool thing I wanted to mention, right, that I'm not supposed to talk about is all right, I want to talk about this inertial production device, and in this where it talks about how they build this with this. So they basically coat it on these nano layers, okay? But they don't talk about the process by how they do it and how they build it. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I learned a little bit about that recently. And it's what's called cold spray technology. And that's one of the methods for how to create these kind of nano-layered skin coatings and stuff, is with cold spray. Very interesting stuff if you want to learn more. But again, I'm not going to say too much more because I don't want to get friggin' arrested under Trading with the Enemy Act or anything crazy. Yeah, man, we're digging into this stuff and really trying to get. I wanted to do a live stream and talk about this before, you know, it got too old of a story and people weren't paying as much attention anymore. But I've been following this. I've been digging, and I've been making a lot of interesting connections. And it's good to be in contact with Brett Tingley, the author of these excellent journalistic articles on the Drive. Keep up the great work, Brett, and again, all the people that have come out of the woodwork to contact me and share information. I'm going to make that easier very soon. We're putting together this website in the next month or two, and anyone who can help out with that and lend I don't know, hosting service. I got a host, but I gotta upgrade my host with GoDaddy because it's slow as shit. We put this whole website together, but it just loads like freaking mud. It's slow as hell. I want something that loads super fast, and I'm gonna have a forum on there where people can do anonymous. I want a forum basically set up so that Joe freaking whatever from Area 51 can go down to a local coffee shop, borrow a computer real quick, log on to this site, and friggin' dump a bunch of information, and then and people won't ever know where it came from, and people can, you know, so that way we have like an anonymous place where people can just dump and leak information to us from, and we can discuss it and you know, analyze it thereof, you know. Basically anything that comes out, we analyze the crap out of it anyway. I would immediately just assume that everything's disinformation until we can prove otherwise. But and that's what I thought about a lot of this stuff too. And I'm digging more into it, and I think, you know, some of it might be on the surface, you know, have some disinformation qualities, but there's definitely real research and definitely real physics going on here behind the scenes that needs to be dug into a lot more deeply, because someone's going to figure this out, dude, and someone already has figured this out. I would bet someone already has figured this out, especially with that 35 trillion we see in the budget right now going down. they wouldn't be spending out that kind of money out their ass if they didn't, have like clear vision and sight. That's the kind of funding we saw, the kind of spending we haven't seen that since the Manhattan Project. I'll tell you what, I said this 2 years ago. It's like, if there isn't already, there will be a full-scale Manhattan Project style endeavor going on in the U.S. very soon, related directly to this technology and the research thereof. Mark my words, dude. Again, I hate being right all the time. Just kidding. I'm wrong quite enough. So I admit it. I like to admit when I'm wrong. It's good to admit when you're wrong. No one can be right all the time. You know what I mean? And if you were right all the time, then you get elected president like Donald Trump, right? Any case, we're doing great, man. I got 91 viewers on this. This is pretty good. I wish I had more genius, dude. I wish I didn't waste so many years doing other things and not pursuing physics knowledge and all the stuff that I should have been doing. I would have known so much more by now. But yeah, I got involved with a lot of other bullshit, like that 9/11 thing, which still bothers me to this day. And the best way to tell that I'm not a shill is I'm not afraid to talk about 9/11 and all that bullshit either. Oh, Tyler from Secure Team, man. You guys want to talk about Tyler real quick? I don't want to talk about Tyler. I think he's going through enough shit, man. I think he's got a lot of self-realization to come to as well. That just because you're popular doesn't mean that you're right, or it doesn't mean that you're on the right track. Popularity is by no means a measure of how truthful or accurate you are, as we've learned. Secure Team 10. Let's see all this stuff, man. It's funny watching everything that's going on with that. And then, dude said that guards beat him up and that, they took him sleeping and woke up in his car. Dude, he crashed his Jeep, and it's cool, man. But anyways, Secure Team 10, dude, I've actually talked to Tyler a little bit. He responds back to me on Twitter, and I'm not, I'm just trying to get him to grow up and wake up a little bit more, and that he's been used as a pawn by the friggin' disinfo machine hard. He's definitely been used as a pawn hard, and they've taken advantage of this kid wicked bad. And man, you could do so much better. You just gotta get better information, man. And I hope the stuff I've sent you and been showing you and has resonated a little bit. Hopefully. I don't know that it has, but I want to get that. Where's the other patent we got here? So the cold spray technique. Yeah, it's a very interesting stuff I learned about recently. That cold spray technology. Another thing. Any of the stuff that I mention in these podcasts, you start searching for this if you're not using a VPN, you will be put on a list. They will hack in your computer and see what else you have and what you're researching. Like straight up, bro. This shit's no joke, man. I got my hard drive. I had a whole folder with all my stuff in it, and I have it backed up. And I haven't backed it up for a couple months, so there's a couple papers that might be missing. But they went and corrupted my big hard drive on my computer, and I like half my folder. I won't even open the files anymore. It says the whole folder is corrupt, and the file structure. They went and hacked into my stuff, and I don't know what's going on with it. But luckily, I have backups of all that stuff, and so don't like 12 other people already. So you're not going to prevent it from getting out. It's coming out, and there's nothing you guys can do about it. And what we're putting together here. Well, anyways, yeah, here's the article on the graphene and the wrinkle-free. How it can go wrinkle-free. These types of graphene sheets that they're making, and just reminded me so much of that memory foil from Roswell, man. I just go back and forth on the whole Roswell thing. And but again, I look at Corso and how full of shit Corso was, and how we don't see that massive jump in the technology. And the other thing, how I really feel as a scientist, it's a fucking insult to all the scientists out there that have really researched this stuff and worked on it, because I believe that we discovered this stuff on our own, man. Like, it's like an insult. It's like saying these scientists didn't figure out shit. We just copied it from aliens, that we were cheating. We were looking at somebody else's fucking paper the whole time. And that's just not true, man. It's just not true. David Adair's another one who's full of shit, dude. You know? Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't believe David Adair and any of his stuff. I have read a recent article talking about the UFO patents of that guy Michael Salla, and that guy just doesn't know what the hell is going on. He's so nuts. But anyways, dude, it's I believe that real scientists need to get more credit, and that if this stuff was recovered from Roswell and whisked away, then it was not shown to anybody. It's buried in a friggin' vault under the Vatican with all the other alien artifacts from, 2,000 years of history that got hidden, or whatever else you believe. That, a lot of people believe that the Vatican's been hiding all that evidence. That rock that, Mecca is based around a black rock that fell from the sky. The whole Islam religion they worship fucking a piece of UFO debris that came from space, bro, basically. But yeah, when they see the money, dude, like, they realize that, oh, you just make hoax videos about UFOs, dude, and that's what gets you the views, and that's what gets you paid, dude. Dude, if I could make a hoax, it would be so much more believable than any of the UFO videos you see on YouTube. And I would get, I could do it so well if I wanted to do that. And I don't. Never have. Because I'm not a freaking piece of crap, dude. If I ever did something like that, too, it would totally ruin my entire credibility in like the whole field, as if I haven't ruined it enough by just talking shit about everyone. And that's what I do. My job is to analyze and be, the devil's advocate and to rip things to shreds. And people don't like that when you do that. And I go back and forth on stuff all the time. I say things, and it's important to change your mind and change your opinion, dude. Like, not all the people I watch, I have to agree with everything they say, 100%. And if they say something I don't agree with, like Cal Korff, he doesn't believe Roswell, well, I'm not gonna, you're entitled to your own belief. It doesn't change anything. You can believe whatever the hell you want. It doesn't change the truth. That's just what you want to believe, dude. So, if you want to believe that, insect chitting from, insect wings is the secret to anti-gravity, because you watch some documentary on Grebennikov, and then you can believe that. But, dude, I tell you what, that's not what Lockheed Martin's using to build their UFOs. You know what I mean? That's all I gotta say. Oh, another thing I learned about those pilots that Cal Korff pointed out is that some of those pilots talk all the Nimitz, the best Nimitz witnesses for that event. The pilots, that they actually worked for Bigelow Aerospace. It's like a small world, dude. It's like this little tiny circle jerk of people, selling UFO stories so that people want UFO investigations and give money to the government to investigate UFOs, which goes back to Bigelow Aerospace. And he wants to be the king of all these secret programs and the secret, space program to reverse engineer and investigate all this stuff. Bigelow Aerospace, man. And do people know about the Zeta Reticuli 2 project? Because I know that was mentioned in the comments there, and I just want to make sure everybody knows. You know, and remind people constantly that, you know, Bob Bigelow gave Bob Lazar like $2 million to investigate element 115. And he hired a whole bunch of team of physicists to you know, check the guy out and figure this out, including Hal Puthoff, I think, and maybe Eric Davis. But basically they told him, like, Bob, this Lazar dude's full of shit. He's not a real physicist. You know, he can't even do math. Oh, I don't care, dude. People can, you know, I'm going to call everybody a liar and a scam artist and a fraud and point out their connections. Because, look, I don't have anyone on my team that worked for the CIA. I don't have anyone on my team I don't talk to people that work for the Pentagon. I don't care what they say. I don't want, you know, I don't want to be friends with those people, dude. I don't, you know what I mean? So I talk shit about those kinds of people, you know, because I don't trust them, any of them. Because they're all liars until they can prove they're not. Yeah, Bigelow ain't the only one doing it. I know that. But anyways, yeah, I know. I know. I had one guy on Twitter say that, oh, alien scientist is disinformation because he debunked, you know, free energy technology and Judy Wood. Because I did the debunking on Judy Wood, and I don't believe in Judy Wood's, you know, space laser theory on 9/11. And that's because he doesn't agree with me on that. He's gonna, you know, say that I'm now disinfo because he doesn't agree with me. I have a point that differs from what he believes in his world. And I asked him, you know, well, who has free energy? Can you give me an example? You know, nope. Still haven't seen anything. You know, the closest thing we got is this friggin' patent for this nuclear fusion reactor, and the U.S. Navy claims they got this fusion reactor and it's operable. And this is what they were replacing all the submarine, you know, fission reactors on all the nuclear subs with this new type of reactor. Really? That would be something quite amazing now, wouldn't it? But yeah, I don't think this guy did all this research and filed all these patents himself. Like I said, I think it's much more reasonable to believe that it's a lot of IP that's being, you know, bundled under this one guy to either hide the real inventors and the real scientists and the real, you know, that's another reason it's done this way. And it's also just to bring kind of carpet in stuff that they've, you know, stolen from other academics and stuff to file under their own patents, so they can, because it is first to file. It's not, you know, who had the idea first. It's whoever filed first owns it. You know what I mean? Again, saying Israel did 9/11 is no different than saying the CIA did 9/11 or the government did 9/11. Unless you're talking about specific individuals and their exact roles and what they did, then you have no court case, because you can't try a country. You can't try, you know, an agency. You can't try the Mossad. You can only try individuals in a court of law. So focus on the name players and name names like I have, and don't fall for that, you know, miss me with that disinfo crap, you know, saying, oh, anyone who says, oh, I'm going to loop this, anyone who's trying to loop and blame for a conspiracy theory on under a group of people, it's like, you're obviously not in this for truth. You're in this for idealistic motives, and you're in this to try to blame, you know, whatever group of people you don't like. Basically what it is. And that's, you know, that's what happened on 9/11, is that the whole entire country was quick to blame a bunch of people they didn't like for 9/11. And it was much easier. It's much easier to blame those people because we don't like them. Most Americans don't like them. It's much easier to blame them. So, again. Anyways, and that's another thing I don't agree with Cal Korff. He's like, promotes the official story of 9/11. He's a debunker and a skeptic and stuff, which I like skeptics, man. And that's, people call me a shill, dude. I'm like, dude, I'm a shill. You only call me a shill because I talk on a shill level. Like, I'm up there with the best debunkers. I'll hold my own in the ring against them. I send Mick West running for his freaking life half the time. He doesn't like, he won't respond to me. He goes and goes to the easier arguments. He's just like, doesn't know what to say to someone like me. He was gonna interview me and bring me on his show like he did with Ryan, but then then I don't know where that went. He threw that idea out the window. Because he knows, like, someone like me, I'm gonna put him on his toe. I'm gonna keep him on his toes, and he's not gonna be able to really, you know, I don't know. I would love to have a discussion with Mick. You know, and I get a little friggin' angry and aggressive sometimes when people lie, like he does, about stuff, which gets me going, because I don't like people that lie. If you're gonna defend the truth, at least tell the truth. Don't friggin' make up lies, and don't make up crap. But in any case, I'm not a shill, but I'll handle my own against any shill any day with this stuff, and I make shills change their minds, and I make a lot of, you know, I'm in this for a different group of people, I guess, a different crowd, you know, that are into this research a little bit more heavy, you know. But anyways, I'll keep up the good work and keep sending me good stuff, and we're gonna keep this investigation going. And I'm really hoping to get more and more people. I got all these great physicists and PhDs and stuff that I've been talking to on Twitter and all these other places. I gotta get more guests on here. I hate sitting here having a freaking conversation with myself, man. I'm getting pretty good at it. I'm all right at keeping the conversation going. But at the end of the day, it would be really nice to have another voice in here and get some other voices in the room. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to have Corey Good coming on, the galactic ambassador himself. He'll be coming on the show to basically tell us how gravity works and share some interesting new insights from the Blue Chicken leaders. And Epstein didn't kill himself. Yeah, C.W. Chanter would be good to get on my show for sure, man. He's a funny guy. Great stuff, dude. Yeah, man. Great stuff. Imagine if Corey Good came on my show. Nah. David Wilcox, dude. We'll have David Wilcox on to discuss the unified field theory and his book on the unified secrets of the unified field. You know. In any case, yeah, man. Again, I don't believe everything in these patents. I think we've gone I think we've done enough on them for now, but we're gonna have to. I'm gonna do some more research and some more digging, and I'm sure we'll find more stuff and be talking. This won't be the last you hear, and the last time I'll be talking about these. We're gonna be digging into more of this and more of the technology and more of the real skin coatings and effects. Again, that video I sent you guys on talking about the 0-point field, there's a lot of those scientists have papers that are related to this and the theoretics behind how this could work. And the real key missing stuff, though, is like the how-to of actually building these materials and getting them to work, which is, it's coming. It's coming. 2020, buddy. It better be coming. God, if it's not going to come in the next 10 years, I'm just going to freaking shoot myself in the head, because it's like not even point living in this fucking planet anymore if anti-gravity's not. What's the point of being alive and being human if anti-gravity's not real? You know what I mean? We don't have a warp drive and a way to get to these other stars, man, and then screw this fucking creator who made this god-awful universe, this lonely freaking rock for us to die on in isolation that we can never ever get off of. No, I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it. And by the way, I'll never shoot myself. I'll never kill myself. I'm always going to take someone with me. Take those motherfuckers down. Take them all down with you. Anyways, yeah, I wish I could be more funny, man. I sometimes I have, sometimes I'm more funny and sometimes I'm more just like cynical. I'm like a really bad cynicist. Because this planet is going to shit, dude. It really is, dude. Just look around you every fucking where. It's just, man, it's just more depressing and more depressing every fucking day. I just want a hoverboard and a freaking spaceship to fly to the moon. Like, what the hell? Is that too much to ask? Maybe we're just cattle on yeah, the prison planet of Earth, man. We're just freaking on a cattle farm. I got some people tuned in, sending me some shit. Let's see what we got here. Anything good? Anything good before I end the stream? Come on, come on. Yeah. Good stuff. I'll check out this stuff later, but I was hoping somebody would send me something to bring up for my show, but I didn't see nothing. Yeah, dude, that whole Dr. Carol Rawson, man, I posted that way back about the Disclosure Project, and she was talking about a fake alien invasion that Werner von Braun used to always talk about this, man. The entire all of NASA was built by the fucking Nazis from Operation Paperclip, and it's crazy, all down in Huntsville, Alabama, and they all were living, and their grandkids that are growing up there now and everything. It's dude, go to Colorado, you'll see UFOs. You won't be able to explain it either, but conspiracy, it's on TV, dude. It's not aliens. Aliens would be invisible. You wouldn't see them. They would phase to another frequency or use any number of invisibility cloaking technologies, dude. You know what I mean? Oh, this is my shirt too, by the way. I just want people to know. I got this at Walmart. I saw it for $10, and I said, I cannot resist. Dude, I want to believe in the TR-3B. I would shit my pants if the Air Force rolled that out tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that would just confirm so much for me, and that I have questions about to this day, but I don't see it happening. Dude, I'm an optimist, but damn. Hasn't happened yet. I still haven't seen the SR-74 either, that penetrator craft that rode on top of the SR-71 that G.I. Joe toy was based on. Anyone know about that? I've been talking about that a little bit on Twitter too. But yeah, that one, it was also from Ed Fouché's lecture, that SR-74. And it's never been confirmed, and they never came out with it because it's nuclear powered, and it's nuclear powered and violates treaties. You know what I mean? That's what it would have looked like. This little penetrator craft that would have flown on top of the SR-71. And they built a G.I. Joe toy that was based on it. I had it as a kid, actually. We're talking about it on Twitter with some other folks from the 80s babies who remember the same toy. And anyways, would be cool if something more to vindicate some of Ed Fouché's stuff, because so far all we have is the metamaterials and quasi-crystal stuff, which it looks like Hal Puthoff told him about and gave to him. And still very interesting, and led me down a lot of those down those paths of research over the years. But right, I don't know, man. We're going to keep plugging away and keep digging in on this. And again, read these patents. They're very interesting. I'm not going to sit here and read through all of it. But maybe we'll do that on a future date and break some of this stuff down. It basically talks about these resonant cavities and these electromagnetic field effects. There's a whole bunch of videos on all about this stuff too, on a lot of the warp drive channels. Asteron X and some of these other warp drive channels talk about a lot of this stuff. But there we go. So aluminum or copper at room temperature, cryogenically cooled superconducting material. yttrium, barium, copper oxide, or niobium is used for the outer resonant cavity wall and outside mold-lined skin of the craft. One must realize that the energy high-frequency electromagnetic field generator responsible for the inertial mass diminution effect would generate a repulsive EM energy field while in Earth's atmosphere, thereby repelling air molecules in its path of ascent, light. Consequently, once in orbital space, by local vacuum polarization, repulsive gravity. So it says that it uses Biefeld-Brown basically to move an ion wind to move while in the atmosphere, but then once it gets to outer space, it bends actual like vacuum around the craft and uses vacuum for propulsion and stuff. I think I heard Hal Puthoff talk about something similar in one of his talks too. But Nazis, dude. Maybe they weren't Nazis, dude. A lot of them were, though. Don't talk about Nazis when you don't. What are you, a Holocaust denier? We got a Holocaust denier in the freaking group too. Jeez, all kinds of people. Only 100 people, and we got a really large array of beliefs and backgrounds here, huh? In any case, I'm gonna end this now because I'm getting tired and I want to go lie down and go to bed. And yeah, cool. Anyways, I'm getting too tired for this stuff, man. There's too much noise in the comments section. But yeah, read these patents. I'm gonna dig in a little bit further and see what we can find more on these skin and the actual building some of these effects. You know, it describes how to basically build this stuff, man. Worth doing an experiment, you know. I'm trying to get some more equipment so we can do more of these types of manufacturing techniques. Armin might, you know, find other people who have these kind of manufacturing capabilities and outsource a lot of our production to those sources as well. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes too. The gears are in motion, people, and we're gonna see some stuff in 2020. You just freaking wait. You just wait, and you're gonna see a lot of it here, man. I'm gonna be telling you, these other people, they just freaking carrot on a stick. It's like, it's coming, it's coming. We're gonna show it to you, yeah, you know. But they're not giving you anything in the meantime. At least I'm like feeding you little tidbits of information, even if, you know, some of it goes above a lot of people's heads, and even some of it goes above my head. To be honest, you really have to work on this stuff to understand it, man. And that's how you know it's real. That's how you know it's real truth and real knowledge, because it's not gonna be fucking easy, bro. If it was easy, you'd know it was full of shit. You know it was some disinfo or something wrong. You want real knowledge and to really understand some real stuff and to get real, you know, real educated on stuff. It's not gonna come watching some entertaining, you know, half-an-hour video. It's going to be like watching a video like this where it's all this stuff. Now my head hurts and I have a million things that I got to go and look up and read afterward. And that's how you're going to learn stuff and really get places, because it's not going to be easy. I hate to tell people think and want it all handed to them. People want it all handed to them on a freaking silver platter and just like give it to them. It's not going to be like that, man. I wish I could. I wish I could. What's Gucci? Not you. You about to get banned from the channel. Put user in timeout. You on timeout, buddy. Dude, the Searle effect generator. You know what's interesting is that I had some interesting people say some things about the Searle effect generator that I wouldn't expect. You know, I think I thought it was all bullshit, because it's like that law of squares thing, and that he needed 9 hours. He wanted 9 hours at Tesla Tech to explain his whole theory and everything. I'm like, well, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it. And that's kind of the case I get from him. And I don't believe that, you know, he is, again, it's another story of some dude that figured it out. You know, this Searle effect. You know, it's another story of a guy who figured this out back in the 50s, you know, and built this craft that he has some pictures of, but you know, here's the pictures of this craft that he supposedly it's flying, and they built it back in the 50s and everything. Here he is with it. And he wants all this money to build this, and, you know, I need to rebuild it and get another group together to build this craft again that we built before. I don't know. There's a lot of things that make me really feel like that it's bullshit, and that they got funding, and that some of the people who were funding them, that they lied about some of their results, and there was some issue there, and they lost the funding, and there was some things that went on, and again, it's like, where's the real nuts and bolts of it here? But there's been some interesting things that have been said about it for the nonlinear magnetic properties and these dynamics and how they might affect the field at these points. And again, interesting theory and stuff, but man, like, they built these things with these rollers and these sliders, but does it make free energy? Does it, you know, lift off the ground? I haven't seen anything out of it yet. Again, it seems like I always said that if this really does work in this principles, then it's an overly complicated and too many moving parts, too many like parts, and an overcomplicated system. It's like, wouldn't you be able to do the same thing with Mercury and you know, superfluid Mercury spinning around in a torus? Wouldn't that do like pretty much the same thing and be a lot you know, more dynamic? Anyways, that's sort of the experiment that I think should be tried that no one's really done, is the spinning superfluid Mercury, spinning Mercury plasma, you know, and energize. You know, first off, I want to do some experiments with the Mercury to energize it in the plasma and see how that works. And that's, again, dangerous. It has to be done in a sealed container because Mercury turns to a gas, a vapor, and it's extremely dangerous when you inhale it in that form. So it's dangerous experiments, which I don't think anyone should try, but more stuff needs to be done with the spinning Mercury stuff, because there's got to be, there just seems like there's something to that, you know, every time you search for it, and every time you know, the spinning Mercury, it's hard to find stuff on it, and like that whole patent that you know, Ed Fouché talked about the whole process of this TR3B being based on this spinning Mercury stuff, and then, you know, that patent came out and it all disappeared, you know, when that patent came out. It's all Biefeld-Brown stuff now is all you see. So I always felt like there was something more to that, and that more experiments should be tried, and I'd really like to get, you know, something together where we could fund some stupid experiments with some spinning Mercury plasma. That would be fucking awesome. In any case, it would explain the whole why UFOs are shaped like donuts, why they're shaped like saucers and everything too. You know, I always liked that explanation, and it's always felt like something more to me. You know, and there's always been forces pushing me to all this other stuff, but again, I also know that there's a lot of craft that have been reported that are completely smooth on the outside, including the one Gary McKinnon saw. Right, so Gary McKinnon hacked into that NASA file and saw the perfectly smooth shell of this craft. That's not what he said. Nothing there. But anyways, that's what Gary McKinnon said he saw when he hacked into this thing. He saw this perfectly smooth friggin' shell of the craft, and that would be more akin with these warp skin coatings, or possibly even graphene, you know, a graphene type balloon. Maybe it's mylar again, but interesting stuff. Definitely more to dig into with the science here, if there is you know, if there is different types of propulsion systems. Maybe there are. Maybe there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's different types. So we continue the research. Again, I got a whole list of all these studies on the page, and we're going to be putting our laboratory together soon. Well, we have a laboratory already, falconspace.org. We're going to be building and adding more stuff to it. I got a video from one of our more recent experiments that's not up here yet. I got to finish editing that down and get that out. But yeah, we got some cool stuff coming up. So I'm making titles for that right now and still in the editing process. But we'll be getting some information out, man, and keep up the comments, keep sending me stuff, my email, and I'm also working on putting together a new alien scientist website. Where is this? The new alien scientist. I got a new website kind of in the works. I'm slowly putting it together, but I'm basically going to replace the old website soon and build a whole new website, which is going to work in conjunction with the falconspace.org website we're putting together. And we're going to have a forum and chat rooms and all that good stuff, hopefully. This is what I got so far, and it's still working on it. I got to do a bunch of edits, man. There's so much stuff. I'd be sitting here writing stories all day, just putting this whole thing together. In any case, I'm tired. Thank you all for joining in, and I'm gonna end this here and have a good night, and stay tuned for the next one. We're gonna be digging more into these composites and these materials. Maybe build some of this. I'd like to build an experiment or find someone who has an experiment that we could film or go and look at it and check out. Like, I'm right here in Rhode Island. I'm a short drive to anywhere on the East Coast. I know there's tons of schools with labs and people doing stuff around here. Get connected, reach out to the network, hook people up, send people my videos, tell them to get in touch with me so I can interview them. I need more information and from more knowledgeable and more well-educated people on this so that we can get closer to the truth and get more, educate ourselves more on this stuff. So again, a lot of people have a lot of different ideas too. So if we get people with different ideas on here that want to say, oh, you're wrong about this, and I want to come and argue with you, come on, let's do it. I don't have enough people arguing with me. I don't have enough people to argue with, man. I love arguments. People love arguments too. If I get someone in here disagreeing with me, it's going to get way more views than if I get someone in here with an echo chamber being like, oh yeah, oh yeah. But anyways, we'll see you later. And yeah, I need to get a show going with some experiments. We'll blow some shit up in the lab. That will get some attention, right? That will get more people watching. If we start blowing shit up in the lab, if I build a little disc like this and we turn it on and it flies through the friggin' roof of the place and we lose it and never see it again, that would be cool too, right? In any case, guys, until the next time, keep following strange people and listen to what they have to say. My favorite strange person of the year has been Mike McCullough. Mike McCullough. Oh man, quantized inertia. This guy's the man. All his papers and the stuff that he's been publishing. I think this good dude's gonna be one of the dudes to do it in 2010 and 2020. Man, he's gonna be one of the ones. This awesome, weird little geeky dude. Love you, Mike. I can't wait. I gotta get him on my show for a talk, man. He's been slaying it on Twitter and in the academic community, and they've been giving him a backlash. They've been giving him hell. There's all these theories. It's this freaking stigma and the dogma of university physics that don't want to let new ideas in. They're like, oh, you're going to get rid of dark matter and find the connection between relativity and quantum mechanics. That, we want to overcomplicate and you want to bring new technology out. Yeah, this is good stuff, man. This is where it's at. I love scientific revolutions. This is where I get off, is seeing the smartest, most prestigious physicist fucking fall flat on his face and be like, oh, I'm an idiot. Why couldn't I see? That's what gives me more pleasure than anything in all this is getting really smart people to change their minds and realize they were fucking wrong. That is my favorite. So long, people.